Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time of day you're listening or watching, welcome to the BSGN Blueprints podcast. I'm Inkiru,
I'm Jane.
I'm Anya.
and we have the wonderful Timmy Merriman Johnson, also known as Mr. Money Jar.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, guys, let's get straight into this episode. We have the wonderful Mr. Money Jar. Timmy, is that okay if I call you Mr. Money Jar?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we want to really pick your brain in this episode, actually, because one of the things that we think is really important for our listeners is to really understand how to navigate relationships, all sorts of relationships. And we're going to start off with the dating world to start off with. So if you can tell us actually, Timmy, what you do currently and why you think that your opinion on relationships, in particular dating, is valid right now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because, I'm actually not a relationship expert at all. I am a qualified financial advisor and content creator, so 90% of the content I make is about money, and about wealth. But one of the things that I like to say in talks and in my content is that wealth is actually holistic, and it's not just about finance. It's about your health, your memories, and your relationships.
Yeah.
And I think like relationships and love is the most important pillar of that. And I guess in terms of how we started talking, ZZ Mills posted like a TikTok or a reel on not feeling like she was ever going to find her person. And I don't know, like sometimes when I see stuff, I'm like, I just have to say something about this. It really struck a chord with me. So I stitched it and I kind of gave my opinion on dating men as a woman in 2024, and just gave my thoughts on how I think men operate. And I think it's got like 100,000 views or something, and loads of comments and stuff. So
what were your thoughts?
What were my thoughts?
Yeah, what were your thoughts on that ZZ Mills post?
I feel like as a man, and as someone with a lot of male friends, I fundamentally understand how men operate. I don't claim to know how all men operate, but I feel like I have a good grasp of the fundamentals. And I feel like a lot of women don't understand that or have a partial understanding of it. And then when those two things like clash, you end up with like bad results, basically. And I think it's the same the other way around as well. I don't think men fundamentally understand how women operate either.
And I'm sure you think men are very simple to understand.
Yes.
And women think we're very simple to understand.
We are very simple.
Very
simple to understand.
So what do you think are the main issues that are not, being understood between each gender?
So if I touch upon what I said in the reel first and foremostly, the main distinction that I touched upon it was I think that when women look at how men behave, a lot of the time attraction, particularly physical attraction, is confused with liking.
100%.
Yeah,
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, because men, I do think are quite simple in the sense of it's like we want three things: food, sex, status.
Yeah, respect.
Yeah, respect. For another type of man, it's maybe peace. But those kind of three basic things, and I think that's
in what order?
Can you turn?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, asking for a friend.
You need to eat to be able to do the other two things. But so yeah, there's kind of those, and I do believe that is like all men that are alive today, all men that have come before and will, and particularly with the sex part, it's like physical attraction is like it's like the first thing you notice, and then the emotional attraction comes afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think when you're on the receiving end of physical attraction, it can feel really good. It can feel magnetic or hypnotic almost, but that does not mean that the man in question likes you as a person.
Yeah.
And in order for the relationship to actually last, you have to be with someone who likes you as a person.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just going to get with you,
Get what they want.
And then when the new person comes along, they'll just get the next person who is also attractive as well.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. I wonder whether I wanted to hear the ladies' opinion on this actually. What do you think men instinctively go for when they're looking for a mate?
So one thing I cannot ever do is speak on behalf of men. I can only speak on behalf of science. And obviously that's kind of one of the areas that I delved a lot into, relationship psychology, and very similar to what you were saying in terms of this attraction element. And I know I've touched on it on a previous podcast. I think it was Date Me, Mate Me, when we're thinking about the kind of evolutionary psychology, and that we aren't just here for survival of the fittest, it's survival of the sexiest, and our main aim is to reproduce as men and women. And obviously women, they invest a lot more in their gametes, and therefore they're more choosier. Men, they can have as many children as they want, so therefore they're looking for women with signs of fertility. And I remember really touching on this a lot before, so I want people to go back and listen to that episode. So I think what men are looking for, not necessarily in a relationship, but when men are on the prowl, it's more about the attraction and the sexual chemistry rather than a relationship. And like what you were saying, women get that confused. They think, oh my gosh, he loves me because he wants to sleep with me. No, not at all. When we think about our natural biological instincts, it's not that. But I definitely agree. If a man is looking for a long-term relationship, they want somebody who is going to be nurturing, respectful. So nurturing, like what you were saying with the food aspect, being respectful and making sure that the man is feeling like the man in the relationship. And I think physical attraction definitely goes into it as well. But I think what we tend to do as women, as we like to think that we know what men want, and we don't. And I think it's really important to hear from a man, and to, especially on those first dates or that initial kind of setup, to really understand what kind of qualities he's looking for in a wife, and thinking the qualities that you have, do they match? And if they don't, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? It's fine, move on. But we tend to try and either change ourselves, or we think we know what he wants, and so we do this, or we put on an act in the beginning, and there's a lack of communication, and that's where I think a lot of the issues for women in 2024 are stemming from.
I wonder if a lot of men know what they want, though. I don't think they do, because I think
it's simple. They want peace.
I don't know, because I mean, some men, for example, may go out in a certain setting and say, I want the most attractive girl. But other men actually are deterred by that, because they don't want somebody that everybody wants as well.
Very true.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, is that the case? I mean,
yeah. I think. Well, I liked what you said about, like you touched upon the first few dates being about getting to know each other. And I do think that's the case, because it's like, again, as a man, you see a woman, she's attractive, you don't know her. I think the liking part, to like is to know, and to love is to understand. So I think that it's like, you see her, she looks attractive. The next stage needs to be about getting to know each other as people, to see if you like each other. And then, love comes when you're like, well, I know everything there is to know about this person. I know their tics. I know why they do and don't do stuff. And like, I just accept them as they are. And I think, to answer your question, everyone is actually just looking for love. I think everyone is just trying to be loved. I learned about this in therapy, and big part of it comes down to the fact that we're an altricial species, which means that we're born unable to look after ourselves. We're all here today because someone or a couple of people took the time out to feed us and clothe us. Otherwise, we'd be dead.
Yeah.
So from a very early age, we come to associate love with survival, which is why rejection feels literally like you're dying, like it's heartbreak. And I think when we go out and we're looking for people, we're actually looking for someone to give us that love that we got when we were children. But what I learned about when I was in therapy was actually your job is to learn how to love yourself. That's part of growing up and maturing as an adult. so that you can present your best self to someone else in a relationship.
And you can attract that type of love as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so you touched on something there, and again, take me back to my psychology days, that a child between the ages of 0 to 5, that's when they actually learn how to love and how to receive love, and they learn that from their parents. And so this isn't my view, this is Bobby's view. And what that love from your parent does for you, firstly, yes, it helps in terms of survival, but it creates a template for all future relationships moving forwards. So he argued that there were 3 different types of attachment style that babies or children have with their primary caregiver, type A, B, and C, B being the best and most secure. And then later on, there's been more research to find that people that were type B children go on to have the most successful relationships because they know how to give love, how to receive love. It's those people that are types A and C, so resistant and avoidant, whose parents were, whether they were cold and rejecting or inconsistent or just avoided them, this then creates a template for all their future relationships, and it affects their levels of trust with the opposite sex, etc. And I think that's a big, we tend to forget about how our relationships with our parents really shape our relationships going forwards, and this lack of trust.
Once I found out what my attachment style was, I know the 3 attachment styles is anxious, secure, and avoidant.
And avoidant, yeah.
Okay.
So once I found out what my attachment style was, that completely changed my approach to dating. It completely changed my understanding of myself. My recommendation to everyone is to just jump on Google and search the attachment project and do the quiz, and you get a 2-page PDF afterwards. The one caveat I'll say is it is an online quiz, so it's not a full diagnosis, but the PDF, I got it back and it was just like, you are anxiously attached. Anxiously attached people are more likely to be this way, this way, this way, and this way. So I journal. So I was then spent the next few weeks thinking about what the secure versions of my attachment style was, because it was related to things like low self-esteem and looking for validation from other people. And it's actually very common in firstborn children, because you're kind of the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Your parents don't know. Yeah, we can have a cry afterwards. And then but then my younger brothers are like secure.
Yeah.
It's like your parents get a bit more experience and stuff. And your attachment style is formed in the first 18 months of your life. And it goes on to dictate how you then relate to other people, particularly romantically.
Yeah. Also, your own children. Your own children as well. How you actually parent.
So now, based on your attachment style, do you actively seek people with the opposite? I mean, how do you know other people's attachment style when you meet them?
This is what happens. So I read a great book called How Not to Die Alone by Logan Ury, and she's head of behavioral science or something like that at Hinge, and she's done Diary of a CEO and so on. And unfortunately, which is in the book, is that what happens in the dating market is all the securely attached people snap each other up straight away.
And that's what I was saying. They're happy in these successful relationships.
And then the people that remain,
the ones with the trust issues,
the
ones with the issues,
type A and C. Odd-shaped vegetables in the supermarket. And there's nothing wrong with odd-shaped vegetables. They're still tasty and stuff.
Needs a bit more.
And all those people go on to apps. So this is another challenge that we're facing as a society, is that love has now been combined with capitalism. So we go on apps, and to be very clear, Hinge is just Gumtree for people, and we try and we're all trying to match with other like people with various attachment styles and so forth. The apps, like a lot of people realize this, are that they're just companies. It's a digital platform, and they found a way to turn people almost into like products on Amazon or pieces of content on Netflix, where there's this almost infinite choice of people that you can pick from, which is very different to how things were 20 years ago. You were kind of more limited to your locality before. And it's all owned by one company. Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, Match.com. They're all owned by one company. By Match Inc. Incorporated. The only one that isn't is Bumble, but Bumble was made by an ex-Tinder person anyway. When I spent some of my time on dating apps earlier on this year, it was just very clear that it was a roulette machine that was designed to get me to pour as much money into it so I could get as many swipes as possible. So you're dealing with the attachment style stuff, you're dealing with capitalism, just like trying to take your money, and then also for the first time ever in, I guess, like recent history, it's kind of on you to pick your partner.
Mm.
Oh, okay. As opposed to being
matched.
And
Yeah.
matched
Yeah.
And those relationships tend to last the longest where people are matched.
Yeah.
Research has shown where people are
it's
matched
on
together.
you.
Yeah.
And we're not at complete economic parity between men and women, but like we're getting there. But up until the age when women become mothers, and then that's when the pay gap widens. But like up until about age 30, it's more men are more or less the same in terms of earnings. So I feel also that with relationships, we're trying to emulate what our parents and grandparents' generations did.
Yeah.
But like it's an apples to oranges comparison, because grandma didn't have any rights. Like she was her husband's property.
Very true.
She wasn't
I was just going to
True,
go
man.
back actually to the dating element, and you had in your reel had provided some advice to the ladies out there in regards to how to establish or be able to decipher whether a guy was actually liking you or not.
Yes.
Could you talk us through some of the things that you shared?
Yeah. So again, I feel like I need to caveat every sentence. I'm not speaking on behalf of all men.
No,
I
of
can only
course.
speak from my experience, but I think that like a guy who is attracted to you only has one thing to offer you: his willy.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, what could it be?
So if that's what you want, then go for it. There's nothing like morally bad about that. But a guy who likes you, you will get that, but then you'll get all the other things, and it will just feel it's like a combination of things. It generally looks like proactivity and like a holistic take on the relationship. So when I speak to my female friends, I'm like, is he messaging you first, or are you having to initiate every like messaging contact? Is he making plans with you during the day and at night?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a distinction, isn't there?
And why does there have to be a distinction?
Oh,
between the two?
you know what happens at night time.
I wanted to hear like
First thing he said, Nick,
yeah. No,
the willy comes out.
No, is that the reason why you say?
Yeah,
during the day
because
and night? Okay.
Like, just for clarity.
yeah, like
Because I'm sure somebody was like, but why? I'm like, okay, answer.
yeah, because people are more like people's inhibitions are lower.
Yeah,
more likely
individuation.
to, to do sexual things at night. Whereas if it's like, let's just go for a walk in the park during the day, as well as the night stuff. I'm not trying to like.
Yeah.
That
demonize
sounds
the
so
sex stuff.
sweet, though.
Yeah, go for a coffee.
That sounds lovely.
Actually, I think this one is specific to like the era we're living in, but like social proof as well. Like, is he posting you to socials? I'm not saying that like it has to be that. but
Yeah.
if he's posting you to socials, if he's introducing you to
Friends and family.
like friends and family, although it's not just that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can do that stuff just to get if you just want to sleep with someone.
Mm.
So generally, just being proactive, then these things do indicate that it's more of it's liking as well as attraction rather than just attraction. But I would also say that if you've just met, then he definitely doesn't like you because he doesn't know you.
Know you.
Yeah.
So I think those first few meetings, like the first date particularly, we have all these debates about who should pay on the first date and what should it shouldn't actually be material who pays on the first
100%,
date,
I
because the
agree.
first date should be short
Mm-hmm.
and
An interview, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's an interview.
it should be about seeing whether you want to go on a second date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be relatively
So
inexpensive.
what kind
as
of
well.
questions should you be asking on the first date then? Because
I-
is it just to find out whether you're physically attracted to each other, if there's any kind of chemistry?
I
If
think-
you're compatible, essentially.
I think the point of a first date is to leave with the feeling that you want to see that person again.
Okay.
And you can establish that within half an hour to
Yeah,
45
very
minutes.
easily.
Yeah.
There's another theory and a model behind it called the filter theory, which looks at how people kind of get into relationships. And it says that we go through 3 different filters before you actually realize whether you're actually compatible for that person. And that first filter is looking at kind of like the social demographic, and you filter out on that basis. The second one is looking at I think with the first one, actually, it's looking at values as well, morals. Do you have the same values and morals? The next one is, do you have things that are similar? Okay. So are you similar levels of attractiveness, similar in terms of where you are professionally? And then the third one is actually looking at, does the other person compliment you? In terms of, okay, I'm really high energy. This person knows how to relax, and so
and can you get all of that?
I think you can get a lot of that depending on your questions.
I think you can meet someone and know that you want to see them again.
Yeah.
In a romantic capacity potentially, and you can do that over a coffee.
Yeah.
Because I've made that mistake before. I've like rolled out the red carpet on the first date, and the girl she doesn't know me. She doesn't know if she wants to see me again. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, so then is it different for men then than it is for women? Because usually, I don't know whether you ladies have found this in the past, it usually tends to be the women that aren't asked all the questions, generally. So therefore, if we're the ones asking the questions, then you're then being interviewed, so to speak.
Isn't that off-putting?
Number one, is it off-putting? And two, when do you then get to ask the questions? The questions that you want to know the answers to, as opposed to, and what about you? Do you get what I mean? Like, what questions generally should men be asking women on their first dates as well, to know whether the woman then knows, okay, this guy is actually interested.
So again, just my opinion. It's like that famous Chris Rock quote that says that when you first meet someone, you're not meeting them, you're meeting your representative.
Yeah.
I would much rather just assume that on the first date, everyone is pretending.
Yeah.
And just make it an experiment in chemistry.
Yeah.
Do I want to see this person again? Do I like the way they look? Do they look like their pictures? You know, in an age where
catfish.
Most people meet online now. Online, then in real life.
In person.
So establishing like whether they're as tall as they say they are, they look the way they say they are.
Those
I think
filters,
that's what the first date is for. And then for the second one, you can go out for a meal or do an activity or whatever. So it really should not matter who pays on the first date, because it shouldn't be costing that much in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it takes me back to when my husband and I went on our first date. It was very much an interview style. That first date was from both of us. So when you were saying, oh, do the men, he asked me lots of questions and I asked him lots of questions, and it was understanding that initial chemistry. I didn't mind paying. I know we've had this discussion about who pays on a first date. I didn't mind contributing, because again, it was to find out, okay, do I even want to see you again? I don't expect somebody on the first date to necessarily pay, because the first date for me is an interview.
But isn't that part of the interview process?
Yeah.
For me, it would be.
But it shouldn't be an expensive date. So I remember we just went to...
Irrespective of how much it costs, for me, that would be part of my interview process, would be, okay, whether...
At least offer. Because to me, that's your way of showing that you're a gentleman.
Definitely. Yeah. Offering, don't just expect. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect either.
Yeah, but I think that's where some women are going wrong, though. You know, if you go on a date and you're doing the whole, mutually, I'm going to take the bill and I think sometimes that's where some women are going wrong, because if you have a standard and you meet this man and you're getting to know each other and he knows that this is your standard, it's more than likely that he's going to continue with that.
100%.
I think the rise in women's earnings and wealth and economic viability and autonomy has definitely confused a lot of
gender roles.
Right, a lot of guys, or maybe like the idea of what a guy is. Because 100%. I think for the longest time, the role of a man was protector,
provider.
Yeah,
and I think it's still that. But I think that before, protect and provide was an economic thing. But now, if the woman you're sitting across the table from earns equal to or more than you, then all of a sudden protect and provide needs to be emotionally, spiritually.
Redefined, doesn't it? Yeah.
We're in the process of trying to redefine that at the moment. I think that no one really knows what masculinity means in the 21st century. And I think that that's proven out by the rise of people like Andrew Tate, for example, who come along and are like, regardless of what you think about the stuff he said, they come along and they go, this is masculinity. And then everyone goes, okay, like that looks like a good idea. I'll go with that.
Do you think providing financially is equal to the emotional side of things? because as you say, because the, you know, men and women are earning equal, or sometimes the woman is earning more, do you think a relationship can be sustained if the woman is earning more in the relationship?
Do you mean at the dating stage, long-term marriage?
Long term, I'd say.
Well, I'm of the opinion that if you're in a long-term relationship, all your resources go into one pot and are split
Pooling,
anyway.
yeah, I agree.
You know, the main thing that still distinguishes men and women's finances at the moment is the fact that if you go on to have children, the woman's going to take out years of her life being pregnant and raising the kids. And that's the point at which financially we see things like wealth and earnings separate.
Yeah.
And so the gender pay gap is in effect, it's a motherhood penalty. Women, mothers earn less than men, but mothers also earn less than women who don't have kids.
Yeah.
So I still do think that there needs to be a conversation around how the man is going to support the woman during those years.
Do you think that one of, kind of going back to what we were saying earlier in terms of this crisis in the year 2024 in terms of dating, do you think that men are intimidated by really successful women?
I don't think men are intimidated. I even think for some, the idea that you're with a woman who is doing well is like a relief. It's like, oh, well, I don't have to like pay for everything.
Yeah. Responsibility for you, I guess.
I don't think men are intimidated, but I don't think men particularly look at it either.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to think about the conversation that the guy is having with his friends at the pub afterwards or in the group chat. No guy has gone on a date with a woman and gone into the group chat and they've gone, how much money does she make?
Yeah.
It's always,
how does she look?
Show me a picture. What does she look like? I'm not saying that that's
So you
correct.
guys do that. So you guys go into the group chat and be like,
or you know, or when you're having a conversation with your friend.
friends, yeah.
It's always about like, is she pretty? Is she hot? What does she look like? That's the first thing, and then all the other details come out afterwards. I'm not saying that that's how things should be, but
that's the reality.
But that's what it's like.
Okay. Interesting. I mean,
I wonder if that's still the case as men get older. Do you think that is? Even as they get older, that's still the main thing they're looking for? Because I think as men get older, aren't they looking for compatibility? Is she going to be a good mother? Can I build with this woman rather than just attraction?
All those things do come in afterwards, but the first thing you notice is sexual attraction. And I'm not a kind of a biologist by any stretch, but I'm going to try and like paraphrase my understanding of this. So we were talking about gametes earlier, and like my understanding of like how sex drives work are like men's and women's sex drives are like completely different as well.
Yeah.
So my understanding of women's sex drives is that they're cyclical and responsive, but like the male sex drive, unfortunately, is just kind of always there. It presents more like hunger, in that it builds up and up and up and up and up, and then there's a release, and then it builds up and up and up and up. So like with women, it's one egg at a time. With men, we produce 1,500 sperm cells a second, and that's like every single second from when you're an adolescent until you die, basically. So like sex is like looking for an attractive mate is like front and center, even if people don't realize it. If you look at the most, do kids listen to this? Oh yeah. If you look at the most,
so a lot.
If you look at the most visited websites on the planet,
it's going to be porn, isn't it?
It is all the social media companies' websites, Google, Yandex, which is Russia's search engine, Baidu, which is China's search engine. Then it's Pornhub, then it's Amazon.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah,
so,
there's a lot, doesn't
like,
it? Yeah.
Just the male sex, and we just haven't found a way to contain the male sex drive outside of just go on that website and don't tell anyone. So it's just always there, unfortunately.
Okay.
You're like, where do I go from here? Do you feel like you're understanding more?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was going to say, maybe what advice can you give to women who are semi-successful, wanting to find a mate, and are struggling at the moment with compatibility, with getting over the physical side, whether they are attracting a lot of people because of their physical appearance and not moving on to the next stage of liking? What advice would you say to women who, or being able to, I suppose, look out for certain things as well? I know you've touched on like whether they're messaging you first, and so on, but generally, what advice would you give?
Yeah. What I would say to that is that relationships they're fundamentally very hard, and they always have been. And we've come up with all kinds of social and religious and like economic institutions to get people to stay, like to meet and to stay together, and it's just really hard. The reality of it is that, like, most people you speak to on a dating app, it won't go anywhere. Most relationships end. Half of marriages end. Like, I've previously been married before, and I expect that that's going to continue to happen in our generation. But I do think that from an efficiency perspective, and I also said this in the reel, if I think the most efficient way to do it as a woman is to put yourself out there, whether that's on a dating app or in different environments, to see who's attracted to you, and then to decide who you are interested in of those people.
Yes, that was it. It was a point you made, because I think it was the distinction between, should women actually approach men? And I think you were saying a lot of the women they're getting it wrong, because really and truly your pool is from who is attracted to you.
So you can approach whoever you want.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're going to like you.
Mm.
And actually, if what you're looking for is a relationship, the worst thing you want is to show a guy who is attracted to you but doesn't like you that you like him, because he will bleed you dry for the rest of your for years.
Gosh.
Yeah.
He will breadcrumb you, and he will offer you dreams and false promises, because he knows that you're interested, but he isn't.
Yeah.
But the propensity to want to have sex will be there. So you can approach who you want, but that doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. But if someone is interested in you, you can at least look at those people and go, okay, which ones of these men am I willing to engage with? So it's not me trying to tell people what to do. It's just that I've seen so many instances of like women just like, I'm messaging him, I'm trying to get him to come out, I DM'd him and stuff, and it's like, but he's not interested. You've got to sell to people who are buying.
100%.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. And on that note, I want to say thank you very much for joining us today, Timmy. We have been the BSGN podcast with Timmy, aka Mr. Money Jar. Do you want to say your handles or anything?
Yeah, I'm at Mr. Money Jar across all socials.
Lovely. So thank you. And like and subscribe. My son told me, like, Mum, you're not saying like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to our Spotify or YouTube, and tune in to our next episode. Thank you, everyone.